Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. I am your special host today. I'm Dr. Lori Shanderson, and our guest today is Riccardo Ocleppo. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes, that's perfect. It's not how they pronounce it in Italy, but it's okay.
Tell me how they pronounce it in Italy.
It's Ocleppo.
Say it again.
Ocleppo.
Ocleppo.
Yeah, perfect.
I need to practice so when I go to Italy, I don't butcher your name, so to speak. But thank you, Riccardo, for joining us today. You are the founder and the director of OPIT, or do you pronounce it OPIT?
It's OPIT. It's Open Institute of Technology.
Open Institute of Technology. And you also founded DoxCity. And did I say that?
Yes.
Right? A global community with 15 million registered university students. And you partner with over 250 universities and business schools worldwide. And you have a master's degree in electronics and a master's in management at the London Business School. So we are thrilled to have you on today. I cannot wait to learn more about OPIT and what you're doing there. So let's get started. Can you share your journey that led you to found OPIT and how your previous experience with DoxCity influenced that decision?
Yeah, thank you very much for hosting me today. It's, of course, a big pleasure. Definitely, DoxCity is my very first professional experience in the educational sector, apart from my own experience as a student, of course, as you mentioned before. I founded DoxCity, which is a very big community, as you mentioned before, where students engage with each other and exchange with each other precious study-related information between themselves. It's like a community, mostly focused on university students. And this led me to the very in-depth understanding of both what students are looking for when we talk about higher education and what universities and higher education institutions as a whole actually provide them today. Because DoxCity, being such a very big community, gave us the opportunity as part of our business model to partner with a lot of universities, and we mostly help them in recruiting students and make them their offering as effective as possible. So this gave me, yeah.
For DoxCity, are they currently enrolled university students? Are they potential? Like, is this like more of a social area for them to connect, or?
Yeah, it's both. So we do have a lot of high school students which are currently looking forward to their university experience, but the big majority of our community is actually university students currently studying within universities across the globe, from the US to Canada to Africa to Europe, of course, and so on. And this really gave me the in-depth understanding of the uh, good part of higher education as of today, but also what is missing on the market in terms of competencies, in terms of freshness of the curricula. And these are just few of the things that made me think about why don't we start something radically new in the higher education space and start our own higher education institution, which after years of thought actually came up to be OPIT, Open Institute of Technology, which was founded 2 years ago, together with the former education minister of Italy and former dean of the most prestigious tech university in Italy.
Also, you have a lot of great support and people behind this project.
Yeah, that's actually one thing that you want to have on board from the very beginning. If you embark in such a journey of funding a higher education institution, you actually have to build the institution from the top down. So you actually need to have all the key people in the management, which are very acknowledged about the whole education industry, which is very complex, on board. And this is why I actually managed to do this from the very beginning with Francesco Profumo, which is a person that I was mentioning before, but also I was able to bring on board other key people in specific areas. So one is the admission area. So the people that actually talk with students and are capable of explaining what we do in detail, but also in the student success area, which is the area which is in charge of ensuring that our promises and our learning methodology is actually delivered throughout the student experience.
So what, you said a lot right there about what you do and supporting the students, but how does OPIT differentiate itself from other educational platforms on the market? Like, what makes you different?
So we had the big privilege of starting a higher education institution from scratch. That gave us the capability and the opportunity, mostly, to create a whole new learning experience tailored for the post-COVID era, which is an era which is a lot more flexible, a lot more online as we are, and also the post-COVID era is also the AI era. So, I mean, a lot is going on in the technology sector, which is the sector on which we focus on at OPIT. And by doing so, I actually wanted to focus from the learning perspective. One very big area that is not covered so well by traditional university is the capability of coupling a very fresh and modern curriculum in tech disciplines, together with a lot of applications and practice. So what happens at most of the traditional universities is that you learn a lot of theory by a lot of great professors. But by the time you end your student experience, you know very little about the technologies that are being used in the industry, and you know very little about best practices and the working methodologies that are actually a very big part and a very big component of when you will be joining your first company. So from the very beginning, we wanted to create a learning experience that was capable of overcoming these issues. So on one side, we crafted degrees, and we actually have 6 degrees right now, from computer science to AI to cybersecurity to digital business. We crafted degrees based on multiple data points. Some of them are a lot of interviews with companies, with students from tech universities, um, uh, with insights from the market, but also studying the analysis that are out there on the market, maybe from World Economic Forum or other global organizations that are somehow very good in drafting the path that education should follow in order to address the big shortages in terms of skills and competencies that will show up in the next 5 to 10 years on the market and on the tech job market specifically.
To make sure that the students have these competencies, I mean, you have to, I guess, infuse some sort of experiential learning. And I think that's one of the things you mentioned earlier relative to being innovative and the ability to be flexible post-COVID. How do you provide the students with this experiential learning that they need to be valuable when they start their first job?
Well, I mean, if you want theory today, there are a lot of ways to have such. You have MOOCs, you have courses, you have shorter programs, and so on. What you get when you attend OPIT, or when you attend a forward-looking higher education institutions like ourselves, is actually that you don't just get the single course, you get a well-rounded 360 degrees thought after degree program. And you don't just get theory, you also have a combination of theory and practice throughout our courses. The way we do so, it's very straightforward and concrete. We made sure we hired professors that are very much proficient in theory, in teaching this theory, but also have very relevant professional experiences, because this is the only way to ensure that our students get to know modern technologies, but also get to know how to apply them into real life case studies and cases from existing companies and businesses. So this is actually how we do it.
That is amazing. Using innovation and using flexibility to create an experience for students that is timely and relevant and appropriate for what the subject matter is. I think that's great. You mentioned AI. What kinds of challenges or what kinds of opportunities are you finding that AI has afforded OPIT?
Well, we established OPIT in 2022, in 2022, a bit before like the big release of ChatGPT, which is kind of like a tipping point from after which like the whole world became a lot more aware about AI and its potential. I must say that AI is a very let me say historical field of research and study in technology that dates back as much as the 1970s.
Does it really?
But yeah, it's a quite an old topic. But up until I would say the first decade of this millennium, it was mostly a research topic, and the big merit that ChatGPT had is, of course, to make it a lot more mainstream and broad. So we actually launched OPIT before this big new wave really became this big new wave. But we were fortunate enough to have already thought that this was becoming the big new wave. So most of our programs integrate AI as a topic, as a teaching topic, in different sources and from different angles. So as of today, we have, as I was mentioning to you before, 6 degrees. 2 of them are bachelor degrees, the other 4 are Master of Science degrees. And they deal with AI in different ways. So for example, our Master in Applied Data Science and AI mostly focuses on teaching students and working professionals how to apply AI and the existing tools with the goal of solving real life business problems. We have another Master of Science, which is called in Responsible AI, which is a more technical Master of Science in AI, which embeds the concepts of responsibility as a core and foundational thing that is embedded within the technical part of AI. But we do also have, for example, a Master of Science in Enterprise Cybersecurity, which embeds how AI is changing the cybersecurity landscape with the automation of threats or the use of AI in forensics. Or just to give you one more example, we do also have a Master of Science in Applied Digital Business, which actually teaches people which are mostly interested in digital and business how to apply AI in this context and to have a broader understanding of what's going on in this area in order to be effective in their companies. So,
Well, I love that you have a whole disciplinary area focused on responsible AI, because AI is something that makes many of us nervous. I mean, including myself. And knowing that there's, intentional focus on trying to make sure that it's implemented properly and utilized in appropriate ways is just something I'm very happy to learn about. And we're not just using this technology irresponsibly. So thank you for that. Relative to higher ed though, from your perspective, how has the landscape of online education changed in the past decade? I mean, there clearly was a reason that motivated you to all of this work. And I'm just curious to know about what you saw and why you thought now was the time to found OPIT.
Yes, that's a very good question. And the brief answer, and I don't want to be blunt, but that's how I actually see it, is that the industry changed very little. Um, this was okay in the past. I would say that the competencies that universities used to teach in the 80s, in the 70s, in the 90s of the past millennium were somehow more stable in terms of the potential outlook for students learning them. So, I mean, when you learned something in the 70s, it was likely that it was still relevant in the 90s or even in the early years of the 2000s. Um, right now, we're undergoing and we're at the beginning of the fifth industrial revolution, which is driven by AI. But if you look at it from a more general perspective, is actually um, the, the the outcome of the intersection of multiple general purpose technologies. AI is one, but there is biology, which is undergoing a lot of changes and a lot of breakthroughs. Robotics, quantum computing, and all these technologies are actually converging at the same time and potentially disrupting the world as we have always known it. This means that the competencies that we are acquiring today will last a lot less in the coming years. So what you will learn today, it's likely that will not be so relevant in 10 years from now. So the pace at which universities and higher education as a whole has always changed. I believe it's not so. It's not aligned to what is coming up in the next few years. So we actually need universities that adapt a lot better and a lot faster to what is coming up in terms of technologies and in terms of disruption. So this was the general funding principles of OPIT. Students will need to understand that even if they get a degree today, they will need to keep learning more and more in the future. So universities need to be more open. They will not just need to issue degrees, but they will also need to provide courses and content and education on the go as the career of professional progress. So there is a lot of change coming up, and generally speaking, higher education institutions need to be a lot faster in changing their curricula and being more open and fast.
And I was going to ask, and you answered, I was going to ask about trends that you see in the future with online learning and educational technology. And I think you mentioned, the key word, which is disruption, right? And how we respond to disruption and how we prepare for it, because, we don't operate at the pace that we did in prior decades. Now things change pretty much daily. And to your point about making sure that the students are always prepared and that they don't rest on the laurels of these old skills that they learn, that they stay relevant. How do you ensure that the content in UpIt remains relevant and up to date with current educational and industry standards?
So one thing that I can tell you is that in my view, the mission of a university should not be to teach like the latest and cool and trendy technologies that come up, at least for the most of the teaching experience, but it should focus on building the relevant, strong foundational skills and competencies that will allow students to adapt by themselves as the global technology evolves. So that's very important, and that's not just confined to the technical and hard skills, but also to the soft skills. And this is why, for example, we don't just teach the programming, the databases, the machine learning, but we also typically couple these teachings with like broader things, like how to effectively write an email or a presentation in English, how to manage a project, or things like.
Those
On the
are
other side,
skills. Very critical thinking. I mean, it sounds like, yes, you have the
thinking.
content, you provide them with the content, but really you're preparing them with an education that helps them navigate the future and how they'll have to adapt to the future, especially with technology.
Exactly, exactly. And this is also why I don't believe that pure online it's the way to solve everything. I firmly believe that the personal and physical experience that universities provide, uh, it's still like very much value added. Probably the future is not either purely physical or purely online. It's kind of in between. We've run multiple surveys within my community of DoxCity students, but also with a lot of other students. One thing that always come up is that yes, there are people that want purely physical and purely online, but a lot of people would be a lot interested in like somehow in a hybrid experience.
I agree.
Yeah, so yeah, it's not either white or black, it's kind of in between. It's gray for most of the people. They would love to meet with fellow students. Sometimes they would love to have the flexibility of like studying online or on their cell phone as they're on the tube. So they want to have flexibility, and they want to have options, and that's probably the way forward for like institutions. I understand it's pretty difficult for traditional universities to fully embrace the online methodology because of their like brick and mortar structures, because of their fixed costs structures. On the other side, it might be difficult for online institutions like ourselves to like embrace like a physical campus because of the very high costs and so on. So one thing that we will be working on in the coming year is actually to try to establish partnerships with existing institutions and create like a win-win model where like we can all win in the end.
I love that. I mean, you have so many opportunities with all the partners that you've had and the contacts you've created over time. I mean, to even meet at conferences that are, related to technology, to have some time there with the students. So I think it's wonderful. I would like to take you back to your Doc City days for a moment, because we're
Yes.
talking about millions of students here. We're talking about hundreds of partners. What lessons did you learn from managing such a large number of students and partners? Like, what challenges did you face um, navigating such a large operation?
Well, one thing that I learned, um, I would take it from the university's angle, which is very interesting because really by building this huge community of students, I also had the opportunity of engaging with a lot of universities throughout the globe. And we're still like are engaging with a lot of universities. We partner with institutions in Saudi Arabia, in Australia, in the US, in Europe, and so on. The universities that seem to be more effective in attracting students and making sure that their value proposition is well perceived by the students is actually the importance of the brand. It is crucial for institutions today to be able to build a brand which is fully recognized by the students, and that motivates them to go for that university instead of another. And that is actually the downside, of course, of building a university from scratch, as we're doing with OPIT, because you have to show consistently over time that what you're building, it's not just air, but it's actually a concrete institution which is here on the long run. And this is one of the big barriers that you face when you build a new institutions from scratch. If you actually see the educational business as a business, one thing I learned is that you have to be flexible and you have to adapt on what the market says. Especially in such a fast-changing context that I was depicting before, it's crucial that you do have a strategy, but given what the market says you and the feedback that you receive, you are open and flexible and fast in adapting to it. And that relates back to what I was saying before, that universities should be a lot more fast and flexible in adapting to the market.
And I think, you know, the rate at which you can respond to the market gives you institutional credibility, right? Absolutely. But how do you get the institutional visibility? Like, where do you go being a new institution? You know, you're doing things, you're responding to the market. How do you generate that, or how do you cultivate the visibility for your institutions?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and it's like 360 degrees strategy in that sense. So a lot of the effort right now it's in building credibility around the institution. Because as you know, I mean, you can build the best academic offer on the planet, but if you don't communicate it correctly, very few people will know about it, and in the end you will not be successful in your mission, which is reaching a lot of people worldwide. So on one side we made sure that the product itself it's very, very good, and by the product I mean the whole academic offering. So the key people in the institutions, the professors, the curricula, the learning methodology, the content that we make available to students. This is all great, and that was my key priority in the beginning. But on the other side, we're working a lot in order to establish OPIT and to make people understand what OPIT is about even before they decide to enroll. So a big part of it is actually managing correctly all our social media presence, creating the student success stories, interviewing professors, running a lot of webinars with professors, with guest speakers, with entrepreneurs, and yeah, that's a very big part of what we're doing right now.
Yeah, a bit of consumer education there. Here's what you do, and here's how you do it. Well, I mean, this conversation has been great, and you're doing so many wonderful things. I mean, you're a young man that has accomplished a lot, and it's extremely impressive. And as we wrap up, I just have just one compounded question left to ask you. And what are your future plans for OPIT? And are there any new features or expansions in the pipeline? You know, in other words, where do you see OPIT evolving in the next 5 years?
So our big dream is actually to become a well-rounded university. So that means that we have to like take a few steps towards the other key areas that define a university. University is not just about teaching. University is a lot about research. And we actually want to build a very strong research part within OPIT. We want to have a lot more like full-time, fully within the educational, within the ranks of the universities, full professors uh, within OPIT. We want to have PhD programs we want to create and tell the market that we are here on the long run. So we want to undertake all the necessary investments to make sure that our mission is fully accomplished. I firmly believe that indirectly, this will also lead to the number of students that we enroll in our degrees to grow exponentially in the future. But it's not a direct equation. So we want to undertake all the necessary investments to like create a very solid institution for the long run.
That is awesome and wonderful, and I appreciate all of the information you shared today. I mean, there should be a part 2 and a part 3 because, I mean, really, I think
Thank you.
the audience members that are interested um, in technology, and I mean, even the degrees that you have with the responsible AI and with it's really impressive work. And I'm glad that I had the opportunity to talk to you about these things today. Um, I'm not sure, but I will ask you this. Is there anything that you'd like to mention to our listeners that maybe I didn't get a chance to ask about?
Not particularly. I would like to thank you as well, because as I was mentioning to you before, it's not just about creating the best software, it's also about communicating it. So this is a great opportunity for us to talk about the behind the scenes, the decision-making process that we took to create our degrees. And of course, applications are open for our fall intake, which will start in the mid of September. And yeah, that's pretty much it on my side.
Well, if anyone wants to learn more about OPIT, where would they go?
They would definitely go on our website, which is opit.com,
Okay, that's
or
awesome.
reach on social media, of course.
Awesome sauce. Well, thank you again for joining us. And there you have it, guests and everyone. You have just been EdUp. Well, we appreciate the time that you spent here with us today, Riccardo, telling us all about your projects and what you're up to, and we'll direct individuals to your website, whether you be a student or someone who just really wants to learn more about OPIT. Again, I've been your host, Lori Shanderson, and I've had a wonderful time here today. And stay tuned for new episodes of the EdUp Experience and all of the wonderful podcasts that we have that are a part of the EdUp Experience.